With the launch of the WaveXLR last night, a lot of you are probably wondering whether the WaveXLR actually killed the GoXLR and which one you should actually go and buy. But before I give you the answer, let's kind of take a look at both of these and see what the benefits are of each and what makes the one better than the other. Now, starting off with the WaveXLR is actually a small form factor device with one large knob in the middle of the device that will be used to affect the volume of whatever channel you are on. Now, the bottom left, you have 3 indicator lights to actually show you which channel you are on, which you will be affecting the volume of. And at the bottom right, you actually have an LED indicator to show you whether or not you're using phantom power or not to power your microphone. Now, surrounding the center knob, you also have LEDs to actually indicate what the volume is of the channel that you are currently on, so you know whether or not you actually have to turn it up or down, or whether you've actually maxed it out. Now, at the back end top of the device, you have a touch-sensitive mute button, and at the back you have an XLR input, as well as USB Type-C that you will be using to actually power and send the signal to your computer with, and you have a headphone out, which is latency-free if you want to actually hear what you sound like. Now, with the WaveXLR, you will be making use of the WaveLink software, which is the same as they use in the Wave mics, and it also features clip guard, which is pretty cool, especially for new users, as it prevents your mic from clipping. Now, what's cool about the WaveLink software is it acts the same way as the GoXLR, which allows you to split all of your audio sources and have control over all of them independently. But one thing the WaveLink doesn't have is VSTs, which means you can't actually add compression, noise gates, and anything like that to your voice without actually doing it through another software program. Now, just keep in mind that Elgato is actually working on that, but they don't have a release date as of yet. But thank you, Harris, for actually confirming that. And that brings me to the GoXLR Mini, and the reason I'm comparing these two is they are actually very similar in form factor, as they are both pretty small in size. They're both pretty comparable with features that they have included, and they're almost the same price, with the WaveXLR being a little cheaper than the GoXLR Mini. So starting off, the GoXLR Mini has 4 physical faders that can be assigned to any audio source of your choosing. You have individual mute buttons for each of them, which you can assign to different features as well. You have your hold to mute button if you need to cough or sneeze, and then of course you also have your swearing beep button. On the front of the GoXLR Mini, you have a headphone out as well as a microphone in, which can use to actually control your USB mics if your USB mic has an auxiliary out. And then at the back of the GoXLR, you have your XLR cable, you have your line in as well as your line out, your USB, and your optical in if you have a console and you want to take the console audio directly from the console into your GoXLR. Now, just one thing I'd like to mention at this point is both of these actually have enough gain to power any mic if you're choosing, so you don't have to worry about whether or not any of these have enough gain to actually power your mic. But here comes the real question, and that is which one is best and which one should you actually go out and buy? And that's going to require a few things from you, and that is going to be what you need and what each of these offer. But let's kind of narrow it down for you so you can maybe make a decision a little easier. So the first thing is going to be whether or not you have a single or a dual PC setup, and whether or not you actually want to upgrade to a dual PC setup in the future. And if you want to actually go for a dual PC setup where you have one, then the GoXLR Mini might be your best option, as it has a line in and a line out, making it much easier to connect multiple audio sources between different PCs, much easier than it will be actually using the WaveXLR. Now, it's not going to be impossible to do it with the WaveXLR, but just bear in mind that there's going to be a lot of workarounds with the WaveXLR compared to just a few auxiliary cables for the GoXLR Mini. So if you want simple ease of use, GoXLR Mini is going to be your choice for multi-PC streams. Secondly is the physical faders on the GoXLR Mini, which actually allows you to add up to 4 audio sources instead of 3, and it makes it much easier to actually control the volume of all of them independently, as you have all of your physical faders easy to access on one space compared to the one knob which you're gonna have to click through to get through all of your audio sources to control independently. Now, another thing I'm gonna add is actually the ability to use a USB mic with a GoXLR Mini as well, and just bear in mind you can only use a USB mic on a GoXLR Mini if that USB mic actually has an auxiliary out, because then you use the auxiliary out on the mic, plug it into the GoXLR Mini, and that makes it a lot easier For people who want to incrementally upgrade their setup from a USB mic to an XLR mic, as it allows you to actually get the audio interface, still use your USB mic, and then as soon as you have enough money for a decent XLR mic, then you can just swap that one out. And lastly is going to be that the GoXLR Mini actually has built-in VSTs compared to the Wave, which actually doesn't have any VSTs at this point in time. But bear in mind, you can actually add VSTs in programs like OBS, which isn't too hard, and the fact that Elgato is actually working on them is a good sign, because that means that a few months or a few years down the line, you'll have VSTs on your Wavelink software, which means at that point, they're technically just going to be the same device. Now when it comes to the GoXLR Mini and the WaveXLR, they're practically the same device, with both having their own advantages and disadvantages. The WaveXLR at the end of the day is a smaller device, it fits in well with the rest of the Elgato ecosystem, and it is newer at the end of the day, and it's driven by a group of people who are actually willing to push the bar and willing to innovate in this industry. So who knows, maybe a year or two down the line, the WaveXLR is going to be much better than the GoXLR Mini, or at the end of the day, even with their innovations, they could still end up being the exact same devices. But then of course, the WaveXLR is going to be cheaper. And that is it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below, or follow me on all of my other social media platforms, where you can just reach out and ask me over there. Now, if you're actually looking to pick up any of these devices, I have left links to both of them down in the description below. And if you actually buy one of them using the links, it actually supports the channel. So do feel free to actually use those links. And until next time, cheers.